Sickos Club.
Sickos Club.
Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrating the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! What is up, everybody? It is your boy, Blade Daly, and I am back to host another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. It's a pro wrestling podcast that it's about pro wrestling, honestly. And Joshi G couldn't be with us this week, so filling her gigantic metaphorical shoes, we've got 4 pairs of feet. That's right. I'm joined once again by my homie for the 3rd week in a row. Joined by Antoine Raphael, and for the first time in some time, joined by the one and only Joshi J.
Joshi J. in the hizzo.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Blade. I'm doing good. This is a good time of the year for to be a wrestling fan. I mean, lots of stuff going on, especially in the Best of Super Juniors that we'll talk about later. But I mean, All In coming up too, man. I mean, it's getting heated, brother. It's getting heated.
It's getting heated. Antoine, how you doing?
I'm doing fantabulous, even though I am, speaking of being heated, being stuck in already perpetual summer here in Florida, but that's okay. It could be worse. I understand. I could be in a blizzard. But I second what Joshi J says, and this is like my favorite time of year. And it's about to get crazy. It's going to be very long weekends and short amounts of sleep.
And Dominion, brother. And Dominion. Everything is happening all at once. Yes.
We got Dominion coming up. It's gonna be wild. I mean, with the New Japan's, this is the time for New Japan. So we're gonna be talking a lot about New Japan a little later in the show. And we're gonna have a pretty spirited discussion, I'm sure, about the Best of the Super Juniors, where we see New Japan kind of headed. This is the time to be talking about New Japan, so we will be. But before we get into anything else, I just want to encourage you, if you don't already, one, subscribe to our feed, subscribe to Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out on the podcast platform of your choice. Go over to YouTube. Our username is Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. Give us a follow on social media. And after you do that, I want you to go to sickosclub.com and check out the stuff we're doing. Somebody, we had a first-time writer today post an article about the kind of mutual, disillusion of Mariah May's run in AEW, how it was mutually beneficial to both sides, and that's kind of the way it should be done. And honestly, I completely agree. Mm-hmm. We also have constantly churning out content. The Hard Way with Brett Michelle is another podcast that I am part of and produce, and Brett Michelle is an amazing host of that. So make sure you go check out all that stuff. I got to get my plugs in early because I'll get them in late as well. I guess kicking us off this week, we had a 4-hour block of AEW programming. I think depending on what coast you live on, I think you might have felt differently about this. I am on the West Coast. So to me, it was like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that was pretty nice. Like, when it was over, I had one obvious gripe, and otherwise it kind of flew by. It went pretty fast. I will say by the very end of that 4th hour, I was starting to kind of feel a little dazed, but because it's not a pay-per-view, but it was the length of a pay-per-view.
Listen, they've had pay-per-views. They make 4 hours look like a walk in the park. So I mean, in fairness, if you're used to like what AEW, the length and that they're accustomed to delivering, this was about a moderate length pay-per-view.
Yes. Antoine, what were your thoughts on the length of the whole thing?
Well, unlike you, and I know envy is an ugly, ugly trait, so I try not to. I just say I'm a little jelly of the fact that this is when I would want to live on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
That was a sometimes a long show.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on who's listening to this, I took the day off of work the very next day. So because I knew how late I was going to be up, but
yeah,
it was an enjoyable show.
It's an investment. That was an investment.
Yes.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it largely was a very enjoyable presentation, especially for a television special. You know, it felt important. They announced a bunch of matches, but then they announced more the day of the show, which I thought was a nice touch. Kind of made everything feel somewhat epic. It felt kind of like a Clash of the Champions almost, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like Clash of the Champions with commercials. Yeah.
Yes.
And I loved those days. So I really think they did a great job with making it feel different and special.
Agreed.
They're doing it again this next week. So, whew. But one thing we have to talk about, the one gripe that I have is a big one. This is a 4-hour show. Yes, there were some backstage segments. Yes, there's some video packages, but come on. We had 2 women's matches in 4 hours.
2.
No. Fuck.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Tony?
I'm like typically very good at making up an excuse. You know, I could be like, oh, well, you know, they got this going on. They got that going on. It's, you know, maybe someone's injured and there's always there's always a way out of this. Yeah. But like in this case, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's 4 hours long. You have, I mean, arguably the greatest women's roster in the world right now besides Stardom.
Right.
And I mean, you can only the 2. That's all. That's it. 2. You know, I get it, and I totally understand where you're coming from. I Blade and Joshi G. I know if she were here, she'd be all over this one.
Oh,
in
we
particular.
discussed this.
She'd spend 30 minutes on what you're saying alone, and you know, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Antoine, how did you feel about it?
I'm not going to be as kind. And give him an excuse. I'm just going to say it was an embarrassment. 240 minutes.
Yeah.
That is still almost, but not quite as long as the extended edition of the Two Towers. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, but I'll compare it, for instance, to I watched Ring of Honor today. They had 2 matches in less than 50 minutes. That was the length of the show.
Right.
They had 2 very important ones, and one, Athena, and a young lady I never heard of, but they actually had a match. It was a proving ground match. So they still put the unknown, quote unquote, talent over in being competitive. And I just didn't feel that both matches, on top of the fact that there are only 2, which is fucking unbelievable, is that one of them was kind of not good at all. And it has nothing to do with the wrestler themselves. I feel like they just did what the minimum requirement was. They do 1 match per Dynamite and they do 1 match per Collision. So they said 4 hours. Oh, we'll double it. Yay, we did our job. And then just wash their hands and kind of walk away.
Yeah, it did have that. It did have that feel to it. And this was so easy to avoid. I just don't really get it. Like they had, they did have some appearances from some people like Penelope Ford and Megan Payne with, that facilitated the return of Ty Mello, which was a show highlight for me.
That was for me too.
I was very excited to see Ty Mello back in the fold. I think she's a great worker. She looked really good in Stardom in the tag match that she wrestled this year.
Yes.
And so I've been kind of expecting her to come back for quite a while. We will talk more about that in a few minutes, but Basically, one of the first matches on the show, which was fun, was Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. They wrestled Julia Hart and Sky Blue, who I love that they're back together. It really does feel like they're teasing us with the tag division right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a somewhat competitive match. It was fun, but the story was really about Mercedes being at ringside. All of that's fine. Look, it was funny to have Mercedes looking at this well-done ass steak at ringside and, kind of how that
very
would play.
Well done.
Yes, very well done.
Much.
Yeah, they were not risking anything. They're like, she cannot be getting E. coli. She's got to go win that title in Australia, which she did today, by the way. She won a indie title in Australia. So she added a belt to replace the belt she lost. Yeah.
World domination.
World domination, absolutely. So, I liked the match. Tony and Mina won, which was going to obviously happen. And then at the end of the match, Mercedes kind of bailed out, and Tony just ate the steak that Mercedes was kind of very gingerly cutting, and having a very hard time cutting. Tony just ate it with her hands. It was a very funny way to do this that I enjoyed. I enjoyed it. The next match did not happen for 2.5 more hours, and while it was exciting that it was the debut of Tekla, it was also right before the main event of Collision, the Collision time slot, and it was about 5 minutes long. And that's ridiculous. Now,
yeah.
And it wasn't a competitive match. It was Lady Frost versus Tekla. Lady Frost doesn't win. You know what? I'm going to say something that I disagreed with some people about. Like, I see people saying Lady Frost deserves some wins on TV. Not against Tekla, certainly. And honestly, I think she has a little ways to go. I think that she's improved a lot. And at the same time, that doesn't mean she's a finished product. And I don't think she's at that point yet where she should be getting big profile wins yet. And that's fine. That's just my opinion. But even though Tekla did look dominant and she made a great impression if you're an American viewer and or anyone who's not aware of her work in Stardom, right? You could see the big star vibes coming off of her. So I was impressed with all of that, but it was a short match. Antoine, what do you think?
I actually think when it was another 2.5 hours, and I kept going, where's Tekla? Where's Tekla? Where's something?
Right.
And by the time it happens, you kind of want as many eyeballs on it as you can. And by that time, if you're on the East Coast, you are one of those people that are thinking about heading to bed. So I don't think the spot in the actual show did her service. I don't think it did Lady Frost any service. I'm in a little minor disagreement. I kind of think you can split it. I think she deserves wins, but I don't think she deserves wins on AEW television.
That's what I mean.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Like
ROH is fine, but like just not on AEW TV yet.
Yeah, she's quite not there like Aminata is. And I don't think, coming from a different perspective of being somebody who is really addicted to Stardom, really watches Stardom, I don't think it served her any purpose because she's used to going in a physical type match, even if it's just a new individual on the roster. So I know what they thought they did, but it kind of backfired a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could definitely see it that way. I think Joshi J, what do you think? It doesn't matter what I think. What do you think?
Well, I think Antoine hit on it perfectly, mentioning the spot on the card when this came on. I mean, it's the penultimate slot on the entire show, 4 hours long. I mean, anytime a show of any sorts goes over 3 hours, listen, people, they need an intermission because 3 hours is already kind of like, that's like the very edge of what most viewers are going to tolerate without a break. So whenever you go over 3 hours, listen, they're going to be getting up at any fucking minute now. All right. And that's why the next to the last slide, right next by the main event, that's a bathroom break time, the spot on the card. Mm-hmm. And if you notice on a lot of pay-per-views, that's usually when you're going to have a Dustin Rhodes match, you're going to have something that, the people that are really into it, the hardcore people, they'll stick around and, see a tag match or whatever. Mm-hmm. Something to just, get them warmed up for the main event, but, something that they're not really going to be expected to, make or break the show. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's just why it's not a good time to, fucking debut somebody, dude. Like nobody cares right now. You've got enough out of us as viewers. We were already past 3.5 hours, and I just think that, like Antoine said, you want eyes to be on this. You want people to appreciate this. You want people to receive it well. And I don't think AEW put Tekla in a very good position. I really don't.
I completely agree with you. I think this was like the absolute wrong place to put her debut. You just, it's in a spot where you're trying to kind of use it as a hook to keep people watching, but people on the East Coast got to go to sleep at a certain point. You just can't. You just can't plan on that, and it just put her in a situation where a lot of people didn't see her debut live. I'm sure they watched it later, but you also, I was in, I'm in a Discord, and we do live chats during Dynamite. Antoine, you were there. A lot of people had to sign off before that match, and it was disappointing that they did that. I just, Tony's AEW's been better about how they featured their female talent, and this was a big fail. Especially on Tuesday, you lost Mariah May officially. People know that she's in NXT. This was a chance to show the strength of this division. It felt like a big missed opportunity to me. That, I think your mileage will vary to some degree about that. I don't expect everyone to see it exactly the way I do, but if you're listening to this and I don't think anybody could have missed that. And, they just got to do a better job with this stuff.
It was a perfect opportunity to sort of remind everybody how much they showcased their women. Yep. Especially after what just happened. You hit it, you nailed it on the head. And I'm a firm believer in, if you love something, you'll be able to criticize it as well. And they 100%. Earned every bit of criticism. He almost booked it like a wrestling fan, but from a 12 or 13-year-old's perspective. I just want to say it because it was very, if you go on last, you go on close to last, that means you must be important, but without thinking about all the other ramifications that followed.
Well, honestly, it felt to me like, and I'm going to close on this, is it felt like the way it's the death slot that they would have done for a 2-hour show, that 6:30 spot, for me, 6:30, 9:30 for you guys. But that's where they used to put the women's matches. And why would you put Tekla in the death spot when you could have put that 4-way with Nick Wayne there? And it might have actually, a 4-way match is kind of a spectacle when Tekla's an unknown quantity, and she's somebody that's new. You should have put her at the very beginning of the show.
We were all tuning in.
You have a fatal 4-way match right before the main event. It's okay if the fans don't appreciate all 4 of the people in the match, but whenever you have a debut of a brand new addition to your company, what I'm saying? I mean, you kind of want a 100% approval rating in a situation like that, and it's just there's nothing about that slot is justifiable at all. It
was just a big miss. However, in one piece of really good news, we touched on it already. Ty Mello is back after how long has she been off TV? 2 years?
At the very least.
Yeah.
At the very least.
An insane amount of time. AEW made that awful reality show a couple of years ago. And Ty Mello was on that show talking about trying to get back on the show then. And this came out in 2023, you know? And so I believe, yeah, it was 2023. And so, you know,
at least we've it feels like we've moved on from it. At least that's the
thank
one
God.
Upside, you know?
Yeah, thank God. But I don't want to harp on it too much, but damn, like, you know, she's been trying to get on TV for a long time. She's back. It was a cool way to bring her back. You know, Harley Cameron is injured. So the Harley Anna J team that they were teasing might be Ty J instead, which that match has been announced for next week. That Ty will kind of be taking Harley's place against Megan Bain and Penelope Ford, who are going by Mega Bad right now, which, by the way, I love that name. Love it. They're obviously building towards a women's tag division, and I think that's really intriguing and is going to be great. But yeah, Ty made her triumphant return, and I gotta say, guys, I'm very excited. I think she brings something very unique to the women's division. The other thing we didn't mention, actually, was that Queen Aminata came out to make the save with Lady Frost at the end of the Tekla match. So next week, they've got a 4-hour block. They've announced 3 women's matches already for it. They better keep, you know, they need to keep that's not that significant to me yet. They need to do a better job this next 4-hour block. What do we think? Let's go first. What do we think with Ty Mello being back?
Ty Mello, I mean, like I said, I didn't really follow too much of anything she had been doing on her time away. That's why it's easy for me to kind of dissociate myself from that. But I always, like in her past run before she was on, I mean, I thought she added a lot to Guevara. I felt like she made him more insufferable. I felt that she was really good at that. As a wrestler, I don't kind of feel like she ever really fell into a groove in AEW to earn the kind of respect that I think she's capable of getting. It's just that I don't know. It's a really crowded division right now. I feel like I don't know. Maybe a lot of fans that did like her whenever she was around the first time are still going to be on her side and all that, but I don't know. Realistically, do I really expect her to really break out in this AEW's women's division right now? I got to tell you, man, I think it's unlikely, and it's not a knock on Ty Mello's ability or anything. I just think it's kind of a wrong place, wrong time type of situation, because I see a lot of people, especially with Tekla, that it seems AEW is really confident about, and Mina they most certainly are confident about. I see a lot of confirmation on AEW's end that they are really going to push a couple of talents really heavy hard. I don't know. I don't know where that leaves someone like Ty Mello, especially after being gone for so long. I think someone like Penelope Ford is probably going to be more, benefited by the current scale of the landscape right now.
It's interesting because I think I felt the exact same way about Penelope Ford when she came back. I was like, well, she's been gone a long time.
Same.
How does she fit into this? And they've found a spot for her. So I think I'm trying to think like they waited on Ty so that they could bring her back with something to do and not just bring her back for the sake of bringing her back and make sure she's 100%, you know?
It's very funny that you said what you just said, because that was the first thing I was going to say. Was Penelope is someone that they have had over the years having a hard time finding a consistent she's on TV spot for her. As good as she is in the ring, as great as she is at hardcore matches, she's always taken the L, and they found something. She worked her ass off to get it. I kind of feel the same with Ty. Like, seeing her on TV made me literally smile because of what you had said, which is she busted her ass to get back on TV. Both her and Sammy, to be honest, realized, I kind of feel that they were basically starting over from scratch and the landscape is not the same.
Right.
I remember when we would go, where's Penelope? Where is she? Is it a bad problem to have such a deep, quote unquote, crowded division? Is it really? Because I think it's absolutely fantastic if they can take advantage of it and do it the right way.
Well, I think that's where this tag division, this burgeoning tag division that's clearly forming, is going to be so critical.
And you need the women, you need the ladies, you need the bodies to effectively put together a women's division whom, on his, probably knowing him, he does watch WWE. So he sees that as I can do better. So, well, put in the commitment. And this is at least a start.
It's a start. And I think that having Harley Cameron, maybe they become like their own faction, over time. I think Harley as a character can inject a lot of life into Anna Jay, who's still kind of figuring out her promo shit still. I don't think she's the greatest promo. And I think Ty could use it too. And I think that might help put some steam on her. Because whether you think she's the best or not, Harley as a character is super over with the audience. And I think putting somebody who's super over with the audience with some people who are better in the ring, but maybe not quite at that level as speakers, Harley's a great fit with these two. I think it could be really, really great.
I thought that was something that was actually a strong suit of Ty's. Is she was always very good on the mic and being in front of the camera. She's kind of at home there.
Yeah, well, and that's I am probably a little distance from her as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together now. But I think them, as Harley kind of in pursuit of whatever, a TBS title or whatever, could really work. A faction could possibly really work for them.
I agree.
Last thing I wanted to touch on before we jump into New Japan, which is really the main event of this show. I thought the four-way for the international title with Kenny, Claudio Castagnoli, Kenny Omega, Claudio Castagnoli, Mascara Dorada, and Brody King was absolutely incredible.
For sure.
These multi-man matches that Omega's been in since he's been back, I think they're clearly trying to save his body a little bit for, to do these big singles matches when they can. And obviously they want to keep Kenny healthy because we've all seen what's been in the cards that was finally officially announced after later in the show, which was that Kenny and Kazuchika Okada are going to wrestle at All In. I think we all knew that, but it's finally been announced.
Man, oh boy.
it's not real until you actually hear the words said.
Yes.
And then it's like,
yeah. There goes the neighborhood, brother.
The finish of this match was awesome. Dorada, he's looked strong this whole match. Everybody in the match really worked hard to make him particularly look strong. And he goes, I can't even remember what it was for. It was like a jumping Hurricane Rana or something. And Kenny catches him, picks him up, lifts him like from a deadlift almost, spins him around on his back, and in one fluid motion does the one-winged angel, gets the win. I don't think we need to describe the match in detail. It was an awesome match. It's
Superman.
It's just like four guys who are interesting opponents for each other.
yes.
Having Brody in there made things more interesting. Claudio kind of bridges the gap almost between like Kenny and Brody. And Claudio his matches with luchadors are incredible. They're just always really, really good. This was just a super fun match. The Speedball and Ricochet match from Double or Nothing, or wait, was that Dynasty? I don't even remember anymore. But whatever goddamn show that was, that might be one of the best triple threats I've ever seen. Kenny's multi-man matches have just been phenomenal. And then Okada comes in after Kenny's celebrating. He puts his belt in Kenny's face. Kenny puts his belt in his face. It seems like they're going to unify these belts because this match has been announced as winner take all.
Yes.
When I saw the graphic, even though I've known this is coming, I just marked out. Out.
Did you sit down and shut up as well?
Oh, I mean, sit down. Yes. Shut up. No. But, you know me, I don't, the shut up isn't really my deal. It's like the show's name is a wish more than a reality. But yeah, what'd you guys think about this match being announced?
I'll say it again. It's like, it's not real until it is announced. It's actually said. We may all know, we may hope, but you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I was floored. I was amazed. I do disagree. I don't think they're going to unify. I think they're going to have both of them and go into the C2. That person who wins is going to be the person that's defending it during the C2. I hope anyway. If this recording is brought back and I'm wrong, then everybody knows.
I'm bookmarking this. Yes, I'm bookmarking it.
Bookmark it. I posted it earlier today on Threads, but I think it's absolutely imperative that if you have access or if you can find a way or if you can procure a way to stream or a link or even get New Japan World, it's worth a little bit of money that it is, and watch every single second of every one of the 4 matches.
Yep.
It's probably the best work by 2 individuals ever.
Yeah.
Together. I try to think of some of the best ones, like the Ric Flair versus Sting, or for me, Doom versus the Steiner Brothers.
Yeah,
or
those were great matches.
Yes, Brett and Shawn. But they have a chemistry that is just out of this world, and I think you're right. They're definitely protecting them, but you saw what protecting him has done with that move in particular at the end. He's got to be ready for this. I hope fans are ready as well. I am so excited because at least close to an hour of that pay-per-view will be just them two.
Yeah, and I think, you see like Kenny really has been in a lot of multi-man matches, just a couple singles matches, but you remember that match with Gabe Kidd at Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah.
Yes.
That was so fucking good that you've got to think Kenny's just saving it for the right time. Joshi J, you?
I mean, you're right. It's absolutely imperative that you watch the first 4 matches. And I will say this, I have 2 subscriptions that I will not part with under any circumstances. One is Spotify. One is New Japan World. So it is absolutely worth it to get this, not just for the Kenny Omega and Okada legendary matches, but the whole library. It's very well worth the price, in my opinion.
It totally
However,
is.
but I got to tell you, because you've seen, some of the greatest matches in professional wrestling history between these 2 gentlemen. And so when I heard the match at first, I wasn't shocked. So, I was just like, okay, yeah, here we go. It was inevitable, but we're doing this now. We're live. We're doing it now. That's kind of how I felt about it, but I wasn't really hooked in. But it's starting to grow on me because now I'm starting to think like you. I'm starting to think, now it's time to go back and rewatch those classics. Now it's time to go back and relive that. This is the perfect time. So it's starting to grow on me, and I'm more excited today than I was Wednesday. I'll tell you that right now. And I think it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to top Dominion. We'll see. We can't say.
That is a high bar. That is a high bar.
It's a super high bar. Is it? Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
That's a match that happened 7 years ago, and it's the greatest match of all time in my opinion. So
I have no doubt that it will not top any of those. They're a little bit older, you know. If they even go at 3/4 speed, it'll be match of the year. I mean, you're talking about comparing to match of all time or at worst, it'll be match of the year. Darn, you know?
It's going to be so good. And I think that, Antoine, you're right. I think that having, you know, these guys are 7 years older. Kenny Omega has wrestled the most insane style that I think is, you know, it's only really, he's going to have a shorter career than some because he's wrestled the most insane style. It's just his in-ring peak is so high. It might be the highest ever, you know, in my opinion it is, but like Okada as well. You know, he's wrestled an extremely physical style. And, you know, the people moping around about Okada in AEW, sorry, like this guy was working for peanuts for a long time. He needs to save his body for the big moments now. And
you got wrestlers who work 1 day a week and think that is just too much. And I go, well, that guy was doing it 5-6 days a week, even when he wasn't the main event. Okada was always wrestling. It didn't matter, always honing.
Yeah, and how many G1s was he in? I mean, it's just like the miles on these guys is insane. I'm just looking forward to the build because I think that will dictate the match. There will be callbacks. There's no way you can watch these first 4 matches and not expect some serious callbacks between these guys because they did it in every other match.
I kind of wish that they were deciding to go by Continental rules. Just saying.
We'll see. I think that's a distinct possibility. I mean, the Continental title, they did call it winner take all. So like I think there's a distinct possibility that
and I only mention those because it keeps everybody out of the ring. For this match to succeed the way that it should and the way I know it has to be, I really hope for no shenanigans.
Well, yes, I think that it has to be absolutely shenanigan free. They cannot afford to, and I think Tony knows that. I mean, you know, the vast majority of pay-per-view matches in AEW are pretty clean. So, I think Tony knows he's got to do that with this match, but I want to see the build. I'm intrigued because prior to this, it was always just an athletic rivalry, you know, with a little bit of personal in there. They're definitely going to make it more personal this time. Now Okada's replaced Kenny in the Elite. He's taken a lot from Kenny. So it's going to be very interesting to see what wrinkles they add to this, but I think it's going to be fantastic.
That's the twist, is the little things that they have done. It is quite a lot more personal than the others were, which were athletic, awesome contests. So can't wait to see Tony spin on a classic.
Okada Omega changed the world of pro wrestling straight up.
Yes, it did.
It changed the entire course of pro wrestling. If that sounds hyperbolic, you got to watch these matches. If you haven't seen them, you're missing out. Joshi J is ready for this match. He's got the Omega Okada background. Nobody can see it, but we are hype over here.
I can confirm it is awesome.
Yes.
That's right.
It's the greatest series of matches I've ever seen in my lifetime. So whatever that means to you, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe my opinion does mean something to you. Go watch these goddamn matches. But we got so much to get to, and this episode's going to be 17 hours if we don't right now. Gents, strap in. We're about to discuss New Japan, the best of the Super Juniors, and everything we think about where New Japan's going when we come back. Fellas, we just We just wrapped up the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. Now, look, I have my opinions, but you guys are more consistent with New Japan than I am. You know, it's the Best of the Super Juniors is a legendary tournament. It's, you know, obviously going to have great wrestling, but we got to talk about the highlights. There were a few lowlights. They're very correctable in my opinion, but I think they need to take some action to correct them. And we are going to talk about where we see the juniors headed. And I guess just right off the top, Joshi J, kind of set this up for us.
Well, I mean, this year, the Best of Super Juniors was a little more intense than it is in typical years. I mean, historically, it's one of the biggest tournaments in New Japan's calendar year. I mean, every year since the 80s, they've spotlighted their junior heavyweight division in its own tournament, which is structured the same round-robin format as the G1, their biggest tournament series of the entire year. But the Best of Super Juniors is basically the same. But for a company like New Japan that, you know, is always that was particularly successful in the 90s, however, at the junior heavyweight division. I mean, this year it was really neat to see officially 5 different promotions featured in this tournament. But with Ninja Mac, he's known as a Noah guy, but I don't think he's technically with Noah right now. He's a former GHC junior heavyweight champion, but so if you count him, it's 6, but officially 5 different promotions: AEW, CMLL, DDT, Dragon Gate, all featured in this tournament. And Block A, just go through it quickly. You have Kushida and Njpw junior heavyweight staple from the 2010s. You have Master Wato that we were really hard on the show a couple of weeks ago. Ninja Mac, as I just mentioned, Hiroshi Tanahashi, who has won the most the Best of Super Juniors tournaments in history. Hiromu Takahashi. Kosei Fujita of TMDK, Francesca Akira of United Empire, Clark Connors and Robbie X of Bullet Club. Robbie X actually filling in for Bushi, who just departed New Japan recently with Naito and the disbanding of LIJ. You have probably, I think, iBleed's favorite wrestler in this whole tournament, Yoshimo Kanemaru. And the House of Torture, and Dragon Dia of Dragon Gate. And that's just Block A, and that's already really stacked. And then B Block, you have the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, El Desperado, who's just having a killer fucking year, man. I mean, he is having a special year in his career this year. And for people who are not familiar, it's not uncommon for the champion to participate in the tournament to earn the right to challenge the champion. I mean, it's typical in the Best of Super Juniors and a G1, just for those who don't follow New Japan that often.
What
and
if
then,
what happens when the champion wins the tournament? What if?
Then he gets to choose his challenger. There will be a match, but he will basically get to choose the challenger he deems worthy. It doesn't happen often. I don't even recall how many times off the top of my head it's happened in the Best of Super Juniors tournament, but it's just not, it doesn't happen often. Then you have Ryusuke Taguchi, who we'll definitely talk more about in this segment. Yo and Sho now have separate factions. Yo freelance, and Sho currently House of Torture. Kevin Knight and Nick Wayne at AEW, both in this tournament. Titan of CMLL, Mao of DDT, who was particularly interesting in this tournament. Taiji Ishimori of Bullet Club and Robbie Eagles at TMDK. And TMDK is, you'll know later on, is also having a very, very killer year with this new landscape of NJPW, with the disbanding of LIJ and Chaos. TMDK has really been a faction that I think has really stepped up to fill a void. They have definitely elevated their game and become a much bigger part of NJPW's regular run of things lately.
Yeah, well, I thought this was the strongest Super Juniors all-around competition level that I've seen in a really long time. As somebody who has had a few years where I've looked at the lineup and been like, okay. You know, I mean, Hiromu, who's kind of sat alone at the top of this division for just kind of ever. And he needs fresh opponents. He needs, Desperado has obviously gained a lot of momentum over the last several years. But, this was a really intriguing lineup. And a few people I wasn't as familiar with, for instance, Francesco Akira, really made a huge impression. And
he was really good.
Yeah, yes. We're not going to be able to talk about every match, certainly. We're going to be trying to talk about standout moments, but let's just get through the actual stats here. A Block finished with a 5-way tie at the top between Kosei Fujita, Master Wato, Hiromu Takahashi, Clark Connors, and Francisco Akira. And Fujita won because he had beaten all of them. So, those were the people he beat. So they all lost to him. He advanced to the finals.
Right.
And then in the B block, there was a 3-way tie at the top. These all had 12 points, which is a lot of points for this kind of tournament. Yo, El Desperado, and Mao.
That was one of my favorite matches of the entire of the whole series. That was a really good one.
El Desperado and Mao.
Yes, that was a very good one.
That was a very good match. And Yo advanced, which came as a bit of a surprise to me just because
the way he started.
The way he started, kind of Yo just like tripling down on being the weirdest dude in the world.
Imagine overcoming this kind of match like Yo did, okay? He faces Taguchi. Yeah. And Taguchi, has, a reputation of being a bit of a comical wrestler, but halfway through this tournament, he really turned it up. At the beginning of the tournament, House of Torture was kind of the comical element of this tournament. They were kind of doing the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote thing where they set a bunch of traps that aren't effective and they end up losing. That's what it looked like House of Torture was doing at the beginning of this tournament until Taguchi faced Yo and that freaking match. And I mean, this was one of the silliest damn matches I've ever seen in anywhere, let alone New Japan.
Right.
I mean, the highlight had to be when Taguchi, after shoving his ass in Yo's face repeatedly throughout I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
He was shoving his bare ass in Yo's face. The cameraman was spot on, man. I got to give it up for this cameraman.
Impressive.
Filming the ring rope and keeping the ring rope between the lens of the camera and Taguchi's bare ass throughout this match. That was spot on. Like, big props to that cameraman because, man, that guy's got skill. And the match ends essentially whenever Taguchi pulls down his pants and
sat his bare ass on Yo's chest, basically.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And this is how Yo loses a match at the beginning of this tournament. Yo actually managed to overcome this. I couldn't believe it. He goes on a winning streak after losing to Taguchi's bare ass in his face, and he makes it all the way to the finals of the Best of Super. It was really impressive. There should be a statue of Yo for that uphill battle he overcame, just to make it that far. My God.
I'm going to second a couple of points my man Joshi J made because I was dying laughing while on mute. That referee did deserve a gold medal or a statue or something because Ryusuke Taguchi was out of control, and somehow the cameraman was able to, within a sliver, still capture the moment and not capture his bare ass on camera.
Right.
I was stunned. He raged.
Johnny on the spot, man. Johnny on the spot. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
But my initial thoughts about the tournament was looking at the roster that was coming in. I know we made fun of Master Watto a little bit.
Yep.
Sorry, Master Watto. It's the name, guy. You got to do something about the name.
The gimmick sucks. It sucks. But everything else about him is great.
And I'd never seen Mao like wrestle on a regular basis. What do they call him? The box, or the square, excuse me, like the square, like he's made of concrete. And one of the things that I was really excited for was Nick Wayne was going to be here.
Right.
If I had to quibble a little bit, I thought Block B was definitely better. I mean, down to who finished. Oh, I wish I could remember who finished last, but like Kevin Knight was eliminated early, and which was very disappointing.
Only took 6 points. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he finished with a losing record. I was surprised to see so many points at the top, like you said, particularly from Mao being a outside wrestler coming in to have that many points. They do a great job of inviting different promotions, but typically they don't necessarily, from my experience in watching, they won't win the tournament. And Nick Wayne had a chance to win this tournament, and it would have been believable. He
kind of had a Moxley run, the way Moxley did when he was in the G1, the one and only time, where he won a ton of matches up front, and then he kind of started losing on the back end and putting people over and kind of like helping other people from New Japan look strong. With Wayne, it was like he got some huge wins that we'll get to in a bit, but like he looked incredibly strong, and then injuries started catching up with him, and I liked how they did that.
Yes. I thought they handled having a young wrestler. Like, dude, you're 19 years old,
right?
And you're in Japan all by yourself. Like you're in the big time now,
right?
And I thought he handled himself so well. I see a face turn coming, very soon.
Yeah.
In some type of fashion. I've read reports that say that Christian really likes his heel run and doesn't want it to end. So we'll see how that goes. But this was, with the ascension of El Desperado over the last few years, it's made the junior division even more fun. And it's not just him. It's just not just Hiromu and maybe Taiji Ishimori, but it's gotten so deep. Even Master Watto overcomes his silly name. So my only quibble is this is the best of Super Juniors. Can we keep the nonsense out?
Well,
the first time Ryusuke Taguchi was cool. That second time, third time. All right. I had enough.
It was getting out of control. It was out of control for sure.
There was a lot of out of control shit in this tournament that it was the only real thing that I really want us to dig into as a broader topic in New Japan after we get past a few more things. We just got to say it. Fujita and Fujita and Yo had a fantastic match to cap it. Fujita, 22 years old, becomes the youngest person to ever win Best of the Super Juniors. When they said he was 22 years old, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, he looks older than 22. He's so good. Like, this guy is unbelievable. It blew my mind that he's that young. He held his own the entire time. Every match he was in felt competitive, even when he lost. I think he was absolutely the right winner of this tournament. I was glad they went with him. I was a little surprised that Yo made it this far. But okay, late's better than never. I thought Yo was ready for more a while ago. I think
this is a year of better late than never when Goto is champion. I mean, so yeah, this was this was totally on brand for 2025 for New Japan.
For sure.
So
Kosei Fujita, is going to challenge El Desperado at Dominion, and that is going to be a fantastic match. I think we all know that. I want to talk about a few of my personal highlights, then we'll get yours. Joshi J shared some with us. I thought the elevation of Nick Wayne, I got a second, my man, Antoine. The elevation of Nick Wayne was really refreshing in this because he came in looking like unbeatable at first. My favorite match of this tournament, and it probably wasn't the best in-ring match of the tournament, but it was so epic and the victory felt so unexpected. When Nick beat El Desperado, I popped massively. Like, that was like, holy shit. They just put Nick Wayne over El Desperado, the sitting champion. They put him over clean. It was a great match. Some of the most drama in the tournament, in my opinion. And it was early in the tournament, I mean, it's hard to do the big drama early in the tournament, but they got me, man. I thought there was no fucking way Nick Wayne's winning this one. And he did. And he looked damn good doing it. Desperado did hurt him, though. And that only increased the longer Nick Wayne went. But that match blew my mind. I really loved it. I also got to just say, Mao is fucking awesome.
Yes, he is. I got his fucking music on my Spotify playlist now, man. Like my top playlist. Like that song gets me like, I had no idea nu metal was still like thing in Japan. Like it's over still.
Yeah. Well, and Mao was I had seen him a few times in DDT. He was the tag champs over there with his partner. The blow up doll. He made that shit work, though. It was so funny. Because it's DDT. You know what I mean? And so my question when they announced that he was a part of it was, how will he adapt? And this is really the biggest spotlight he's ever had, probably. And I got to say, his comedic stuff absolutely worked. It's the way to do comedy in a New Japan setting. This guy could totally jump to New Japan and be a huge deal if he did it.
I think so.
He absolutely worked. And when the time comes, this guy can just straight up fucking go. So Mao really blew my mind in this tournament. What'd you guys think of Mao?
I noticed that I saw a little bit of similarity just in the packaging with Tetsuya Naito. I think that is he can pull that same kind of interest. He's not lucha libre oriented like Tetsuya Naito. He's not quite the same kind of wrestler, but I kind of feel like the attitude, I kind of feel like the market he kind of connects with, I think it's very similar to that El Tranquilo crowd. So, I mean, I could totally see a spot for him in New Japan. I can certainly see a void. Whether or not he's capable of it, I mean, the only time would tell if he was given that kind of opportunity. But all I can say is I would like to see more of Mao in New Japan, and I think he would be a good fit. I think there's a spot for him. What's up, Antoine? What you think?
I'm in quite a bit of agreement with you. I do think that those Tetsuya Naito shoes will be hard for anybody to fill. So we'll see, but he adds the ability to. He does a great job of getting the crowd into his matches. He performed in the way that Konosuke Takeshita performed in the G1. I think the crowd has definitely taken a liking to him, and so have I. He wrestles larger than his size. I'll say that. Yeah, because there were moments where I'm going, this guy's not, he does not meet the criteria of a super junior.
Mm-hmm.
But and he endured the worst match of the tournament that he had to be in, and won, however, as Joshi J mentioned, against Taguchi.
Yeah.
But I don't think you put this guy in such a prime spot and he wins as many matches as he does unless you plan to have him around a little bit longer.
I have to agree with that. That was a big takeaway for me. Was Mao did so well that I was like, damn, it really feels like there's something brewing there.
For sure.
And what a coup that would be for New Japan, especially right now. I would say Mao is kind of like what happens when you take like some of the vibes of like a Tetsuya Naito, but you have the silliness of like a Taguchi almost, and the wrestling ability of somebody else entirely. Like the stylistic difference is some other wrestler. I don't know who I'd compare Mao's in-ring style to, but like there's a vibe about him that is both goofy and cool at the same time. And that's really hard to do. That's really hard to do. But the thing where he like does the square and he like, makes his body very square, and it's kind of like his weird version of hulking up was fucking great. So good. It's like one of those things, he's going to do it. And yet when he does, he still pops you and surprises you. And he's very smart. He's a very gifted performer. I did want to give Robbie X a shout out. I thought he looked great in this tournament.
For sure.
I really didn't know shit about him, and he looked great. I thought his matches were a lot of fun. And I thought he really showed out. Antoine, how do you feel about Robbie X?
I was getting ready to say, that was going to be one of my highlights or surprises of the actual tournament was Robbie X.
Yeah.
I didn't know shit about Robbie X either, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a part of Bullet Club War Dogs. And I'm going, okay. They're just doing one of these things where a guy shows up, puts on a shirt, and he'll be there for the tournament and gone. But apparently he's full-fledged. Mm-hmm. But he surprised me with his level of ability. Mm-hmm. And in his final match, he beat Hiromu. And I think they have another guy who's now arrived and has shown the people that he's more than what we all thought he was when we came in here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, you're right. You're right.
Agreed.
100%.
Totally agreed. Yep.
Yeah. What'd you think? Joshi J?
Well, I mean, I think Robbie X certainly stepped up to the plate, bro. I mean, the departure of Bushi and Naito, I mean, that stunned everyone, left a spot on the card for a very important upcoming tournament. And I mean, he just slid right in and he was good. I mean, honestly, I got to tell you, I think I enjoyed his matches more than I probably would have Bushi's anyway, because I mean he had a lot more personality and he added a lot more fire to the tournament. I think he was really good. I think him and Francesco Akira were both surprises, and Francesco Akira really worked that ground tarantula into everybody. Picks up a lot of victories. He's really getting that ground tarantula over. I thought both of those guys were very pleasant surprises, and even Watto. I mean, we call him he looked like a bad creator wrestler or whatever. I mean, but dude, here's the thing. I was really thinking about it when I was watching him, and I was kind of watching like how he was losing. And I mean, and I kind of backtracked on his history a little bit. I mean, this guy won the 2023 Best of Super Juniors tournament. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up, he defeated Mike Bailey in Titan to win that tournament. And then he ended up losing to Takahashi at Dominion. But ever since he lost to Takahashi, he's been on a downward spiral the last 2 years. He lost to Takahashi in this tournament this year again. And I mean, you kind of are seeing this downward spiral that's very similar to what we're seeing from Shota Umino. You see him get so far like the Linkin Park song, and it doesn't matter, and you just fall. And that's it. Like they were both kind of in that same situation, both of these guys, where they're hitting some highs and some ultimate lows, and they're both kind of like declining in accomplishments, but they're kind of getting angry about it. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, later on you saw Wato and Shota Umino cross paths. And if you backtrack back to 2016, guess who Wato's first victory was? Against Shota Umino. I mean, these two go back far, and they're both in a very similar situations in New Japan. And I kind of see that these two could probably form something else that comes later on, because we're seeing a lot of change in New Japan, and I don't think we've seen the end of it. I mean, we got the TMDK is certainly a much bigger player than they were last year. Like I mentioned earlier with LIJ and Chaos, two legendary factions just suddenly being no more at the beginning of 2025. There's a lot of more change to come, I feel, in New Japan. And I certainly think this is Best of Super Juniors tournament set us up for a really, really kick-ass show at Dominion, man.
Yeah. So, Antoine, do you have any more highlights before we move on to some gripes?
Yeah.
Another highlight for me was that we got to see, I think, someone who's quite underrated for me is Taiji Ishimori. Mm-hmm. He's quite underrated and is always at the top or near the top when it comes to this tournament. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed his performance, even though the results weren't all there. And I got to give a shout out to Kosei Fujita. He carries himself older than he is, mm-hmm. and he walks with that confidence. Like that dude knows he's the shit. And
man.
Yeah. And his performance proved that he is. I kind of was backing Yo. He was my pre-tournament prediction that I think was not going to happen in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. But he surprised me. I thought maybe in a year of people who win, who've never won before, I thought, okay, let's see. So he was a pleasant surprise as well to see that actually come to fruition. And he's part of the tag team champions, the junior heavyweight tag team champions. So I think he's got a decent future. But this was the arrival of Kosei Fujita. That's what this tournament was all about. The arrival of Fujita and the arrival of Wayne.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
And Mao.
Yes.
Hopefully we see a lot more of these guys rising this year. I know the only thing about New Japan is a lot of people that have momentum this time of year don't always keep it. A lot of times, Dominion rolls around. Sometimes these guys can hit major roadblocks, and we could be looking at completely different feuds.
That's the good. That's some of the good. I mean, there was a lot of good in this, and we could go on about that all day. It was much more good than bad, but there were a few low points, and one that's just an easy one is, I get it. He already announced he's not going to be a junior before the tournament started, but the very middling showing for Kevin Knight, I think Kevin wanted to do a lot of good on his way out of the junior division. So he put a lot of people over, and, there was kind of no excuses, losses most of the time. He just got out wrestled. He got beat. I think the only dissonance in this is he had been used pretty strongly on AEW TV. So for him to lose what felt like a lot of matches in this tournament felt just a little dissonant to me, but you can't expect New Japan and AEW to, line up their booking. I think AEW wanted Nick Wayne to be the priority. So, that was a minor low for me. I know, Antoine, you were saying that you were a little disappointed with that as well.
Yeah, that's one of the lows of this tournament for me, is the showing of Kevin Knight. particularly the way he's been booked on AEW. So I've really enjoyed it, and he's moving up to heavyweight. So in my eyes and my perspective is you don't want to, how are you going to move up if you can't beat the people that are in the division you're in right now? So from a watch point of view, it doesn't make any sense. It would have been nice not to be at the top, maybe 10, but to have as little as he had was just, I understand what they wanted to do. And Nick was the priority, obviously, but it was definitely probably my biggest low point of the entire tournament. Even more so than House of Torture.
Well, it's funny you should mention them, but Joshi J, let's get your thoughts on Kevin Knight real quick.
Well, I mean, Kevin Knight certainly has been coming up in AEW, and I think it's really cool that, I mean, he's, I believe, the only person that was in this tournament that has 2 contracts, with both of these companies. I can see where Antoine's coming from. I mean, the way he's been getting pushed pretty hard in AEW, and it's not exactly on brand to have him carry the bag in the block of the Best of Super Juniors. But I mean, at the same time, I think at the end of the day, I think all of Kevin Knight or Nick Wayne, either one of them really won out of New Japan. They're over there to wrestle with some of the best in the world and broaden their horizons and soak up new skills, new talents with just these amazing wrestlers to participate in these tournaments, especially in a year like this where you had so many promotions involved. Does it really matter how many you win? And I can see exactly what I would say if I was in Antoine's position to that exact statement. Well, then why is Nick Wayne up at 10 points then? And when he's kind of in the same situation, then, he's down at 6 points. Look, I get it. It doesn't make any sense. I can't think of a good reason for it. All I can really say is at the end of the day, I think both of these gentlemen did a fantastic job in this tournament. And I think the experience that they gained working with these wrestlers over there is going to benefit them extraordinarily in the long run, much more than any accomplishment in this tournament could have possibly done.
Yeah, it felt like a way of moving them on for sure. The real low point of this entire tournament, fellas, this is the best of the super fucking juniors. Okay, this is the tournament that produced Shingo Takagi and Will Ospreay's masterpiece. Okay.
Yes.
You got Taguchi in this thing. Okay.
Yes.
You got Taguchi here, and Taguchi's like the Yano of this tournament. Okay.
He's more Yano than Yano lately, dude. More Yano than Yano.
And as Antoine said, he was a little out of control in this thing. Okay, he beat Show in 5 seconds. Okay, which leads directly into the real complaint that I have. Taguchi was not my biggest problem. Okay, I saw his name in this tournament. I'm like, okay, they got their Yano guy. Kanemaru and Show brought an element to this tournament that I just hated. I just hated it. Okay. The House of Torture shit with the fucking endless screw job bullshit things. I mean, let's talk about how Taguchi beat Show in 5 seconds. There was this extended part where fucking Takahashi and I can't remember, was it Evil as well?
I believe it was.
Yeah, chasing Taguchi all over the place. He ends up getting kind of the best of all of them and pins Show in 5 seconds. I have never looked forward to seeing Show less than I do right now, because every time he was involved in a match, it was going to have some bullshit in it. And every time Kanemaru, it was the same thing. Kanemaru, by the way, when he actually wrestled in this tournament, which was pretty infrequent, was great. He can still go. And
yes,
I agree. Especially for 48, I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy. I didn't even know he was that old. But having him in this tournament, he could have been a great pin eater that just had really good matches. Maybe pulled some bullshit once or twice, but It was every goddamn match, and the same with Show.
He's a hard ass worker, a very underrated worker, and I'm glad you brought that up. And yes, he is 48.
Yeah,
and I thought he was, and I agree with you. I noticed the same thing. I think Kanemaru was one of the hardest workers in this tournament.
Yeah, and then Antoine. I mean, you know, you and I talked about this a little before the show. Is this question is kind of begged by the litany of interference. Oh, one other example I wanted to give real quick: Clark Connors used a fucking tire in front of the ref over and over again. It felt like every match. And
he was getting that tire over, man. That was like the new Sacco.
But there was no there was no finesse to any of it. He did it right in front of the ref, just over and over again. It just, to me, it felt a little much. Like, and that's just my take. Like, you know, I feel like New Japan is westernizing their product, which is, to me, feels like a mistake, because that's not why people watch New Japan. People watch New Japan because it's different than the States. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best wrestling in the world.
It's such a low light. This is the best, underline the word best, of the Super Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that the element that you talk of, that I don't know what element they brought, well, the element was shit, because there are wrestlers in there. There's wrestlers that are in Yoshinobu Kanemaru, who was a part of Suzuki-gun before. Mm-hmm. There's wrestlers in Show, in Ren Narita. And I think it is a bad sign, or a direction they shouldn't go in, which is to westernize their product more. Even back in the Bullet Club days, the Bullet Club at their height, Kenny Omega and company, their matches weren't westernized.
Mm-hmm.
They functioned under the rules of New Japan, under their style. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a little bit much when you can go ahead and look at some of the participants and go, yeah, you're going to end up with like, I don't have to worry about you, or you. So if I make a pick, or if I'm watching it, it's like these 4 or 5 guys, or these 6 or 7. And it's something I wish that New Japan would curb just a little bit. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're losing themselves a little bit in what makes them so special. I watch New Japan because it's not anything else. There's nothing else like it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more they do it, the more it takes away what makes them special and what makes that tournament special.
Right.
Here and there, shenanigans are okay.
Right.
Like every freaking match of theirs, mm-hmm. it just makes you want to fast forward.
Sho is in the prime of his career right now, physically, right? Like, I shouldn't want to stop paying attention because Sho's wrestling, you know?
Oh, yeah, he's in excellent shape.
And
dude,
and
I
like,
don't know. I mean, because it's kind of back and forth, though, right? Because I mean, but it also goes back to what Antoine's saying, because with Sho, I thought one of the wildest matches of this tournament was this match against Mao, and it was the last night of B Block, and like Antoine was saying with the westernized stuff. I mean, this match starts with Mao hitting Sho with a fucking truck. Dude, it's like outside, they go outside, they're fighting, they probably gets attacked during his entrance, they sprawl out behind the arena. Dude, he gets in a fucking Toyota and runs it, like just hits Sho with a fucking car. Like, I was like, wow, I've never seen that in any Japanese show. But it's true. It is a Western element. It's very Attitude Era-esque. It's a little bit out of character for New Japan. So yeah, you may have a valid point there, actually.
Well, and I think the thing for me is, like, Tanahashi, when he became president last year, laid out like a plan, right? And part of the plan was he acknowledged that a lot of people are tuning out because of House of Torture and that style, and that was going to be something that he really, and I'm sure some of this was kayfabe, right? Like he was like talking as Tanahashi, the baby face, like that he was going to help eliminate some of this stuff. But it feels like if they know, and Tanahashi acknowledged publicly, like this is a problem, like they're just tripling down on it. It feels like the worst impulse of like a Vince McMahon during the fuck the fans kind of era of WWE, where he's just like, yeah, well, they'll watch anyway. And like, I'm, you know, like, I don't want to be dramatic, you know what I mean? But it does feel like maybe Gato's time as the guy is like new era of New Japan. Maybe we should be looking at in his direction as well.
At a new era everywhere.
Yeah, it's not common for bookers to book for like 15 years straight. You know, like you can't stay hot. You get burnt out. And Gato feels like the booking looks a little burnt out. He books a great round robin tournament. This guy is the greatest ever at that, I think. But, you know, I'm just wondering, like, does this make sense for him to be the guy carrying the torch as the booker going forward? It's been some rough times. Not all of it's his fault, certainly. But is it time to maybe look in a different direction?
Yes. Is it time for a lot of things for New Japan to start looking in different directions?
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like they overstayed. They ran with Naito and Tanahashi and Okada, and you know, in fairness, they tried to make a Bushi, a top guy, and a lot of unforeseen shit happened. Obviously, that ended really badly. But
talk about backfire, my goodness, and they invested so much time into.
Yeah, and for things to end as ugly as they did was pretty. I don't think anybody expected that. Probably not them either, you know, New Japan or Ibushi. But the last question I have for you fellas, then we're going to read some listener stuff, and then we got to get out of here because this has been an action-packed episode, okay?
Yes, sir.
Question I have for you. Did the juniors show you something here that makes you go, you know, with kind of a lot of the uncertainty in the heavyweight division right now, do these guys have what it takes to maybe take some of the focus for a while? Maybe it's time for New Japan to have kind of a junior resurgence the way they did in the 90s with Liger and that whole crew, you know, where the juniors were really the big focus while all Japan had the heavyweight thing kind of going the strongest, right? Does this crew seem like they could capture that kind of magic in the bottle the way the New Japan division did, or the New Japan's junior division did in the 90s?
I think it's a very strong possibility because of any aspect or facet of New Japan that's probably the most consistent. It's the juniors. I know I'm going to get something good, even with Sho and Kanemaru. You know, when they're in a singles match, they may just surprise you. But the ascension of Francesco Akira, the recent work of people like Clark Connors, you got Mao coming in, Master Wato, who's coming off an injury, is showing his form. Hiromu, who's been playing around with the heavyweight tag team titles, shows he's still one of the best super juniors in the world. And the world still revolves around El Desperado. So I absolutely believe that in this time right now, it's similar. It reminds me of when Shinsuke Nakamura was in New Japan and the top title was really the Intercontinental title. I think they're in that sort of situation right now.
Right.
And they would be best served by leaning on their super juniors.
Well, I think it's good that they gave this nod to Kosei Fujita. I think that this gives him some credibility to help establish this new generation of the junior heavyweight division in New Japan, which, I mean, historically is one of the most important, pieces of the New Japan puzzle. But, over the past, 10 years, it's not quite as prominent. It's more of like a mid card on the bigger shows. Do they have what it takes to change that again? I could tell you right now, I certainly am convinced about Desperado. I think a guy like Desperado can certainly be the kind of guy that could make New Japan inclined to flip the main event, to make the junior heavyweight title last, and put the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the penultimate match something. I don't know. I certainly think Desperado is that level. How many other guys they got, though? I don't know. I mean, I think Kosei Fujita has potential, but we're going to have to see. Tanahashi, I mean, he's won the Best of Super Juniors for a record 4 times. And, I mean, he's not with his LIJ anymore. He's kind of in a weird spot, but I think he's gonna find traction again eventually. But I don't know. I think he might need something new whenever he lands there. I think he's just in a weird place, like a lot of these guys from LIJ are in right now. But yeah, I certainly liked what I saw from Robbie X. I certainly liked what I saw from Clark Connors. I think that some very demonic shit could be coming from Watto later, but I mean, we'll see. I'm really impressed with the hard workers. My only knock on the junior division is that it just doesn't have the star power that you'd want it to have. Besides Fujita, Tanahashi, and Desperado, I'm not sure how many of the rest of these guys are stars. You have a lot of really good workers like Gyo, and Kanemaru and Akira. These guys are fucking good workers, man. But I mean, I don't know. Are they stars? That's another discussion. I think that's the one thing the junior heavyweight division could improve on. But it didn't affect my enjoyment of this tournament. I can tell you that. I certainly thought these guys put on some hellish shows over the past month, and yeah, I just think it's going to take a few more pieces to really get it back on the track that you're talking about.
Well, I think they would need to build, certainly. Like, I think what I saw was some star potential from some people that either aren't currently in New Japan, like Mao, or, Fujita, I think, has that potential to, like, reach that El Desperado kind of level. Hiromu is that kind of guy that you can heat up at any time, because he's already over. He's an institution in that division. Too often the last few years, it's felt like he's there by himself, like certainly look, I love.
Could he be the ace? Is he the ace of this division? Would you say that?
I think he has been. I think Desperado currently is.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I think Hiromu was kind of there by himself for a long time with maybe like Ishimori. And now it's Desperado, and Ishimori, he's great, but he's getting older, and he's in his 40s, and it's unbelievable to say that and look at him, but he is. And so that's what I think they got to answer for themselves. But, right now with the heavyweight division being as kind of blurry as it is, where you've got Tsuji, who's on the ascent. You've got Umino, who God knows what's going to happen with him. You've got Goto, who's getting that, legacy run with the world title. You got Shingo Takagi, who they should belt up at Dominion, in my opinion. And I'm the biggest Shingo mark in the world. So, belt my boy up.
Oh, yeah.
Goto's had his time. Belt up my boy. And then you've got Zach, Zach at the top as well. They've got good people there, but they need fresh faces. And if I'm them, I'm maybe find out a way to belt up Shingo, have him drop it to maybe Takeshita, have Takeshita have a brief run with it, and then drop that to Tsuji and make that a really, really big deal.
For that to work, I think it would require Takeshita would probably have to win the G1.
Yes.
And is there enough time on his schedule for him to do that? That's the only reason why I would disagree with you.
Yeah.
I could see if Takeshita resigns, them doing that maybe about the same time next year.
Yeah, it could be next year. Yeah, I mean, I think there's logistics that you're 100% dead on right about. And would Tony part with him for long enough for that to happen? Let's real quick. I asked for some feedback just to get some other people in here. From the folks in the Discord, I asked, is there any thoughts on the Best of Super Juniors you wanted to share? Tino said, I agree with Kosei winning. It seems like they are finally getting behind and elevating some of the younger talent. I still think Kushida versus Fujita in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match might have been my favorite match of the whole tournament. That match ruled.
That match was excellent.
Yeah, the final was a close second. Despy was cool as always. Nick Wayne had a great showing, and I guess I'm a fan now. I'm a Nick Wayne mark because I saw him in Defy long ago. Ninja Mac constantly losing because he was focusing on going viral again was a fun story. I agree. I was surprised Titan didn't go further, and Hiromu was Hiromu, which is always fun to watch. Agreed. Completely. On all
I
fans.
agree, especially with the Titan point, because Titan is quietly one of the more excellent junior heavyweights out there.
And he's over. He's over in a big way. Like you saw it every time he came out. People were really into his stuff.
So
Justin Ray, who has interviewed Jake DeLeon, the Fighting Rooster, with me, said the Kushida Kosei Best of the Super Juniors UWF style rules style match was amazing, and New Japan should lean into that more. I know that both Senshus wanted to try each other out after Kushida started coaching in New Dojo. It's met with a lot of positive feedback from both Japanese and Gaijin fans. Yes. I'm not sure how much they'd want to see this, all the time. The shoot style has performed up, it's kind of had its ups and downs in Japan through the years. I don't think you want them bordering into Inokiism too much, but these are two pro wrestlers doing it, not like Inoki sacrificing, Yuji Nagata at the altar of some UFC guy who's going to kill him. So I thought that match ruled. I thought it was so good.
Second time we've heard it mentioned, and it did rule. I don't know about doing it all the time.
Yeah. I'm curious about that too.
I still remember some of the matches in the G1, such as Hiromu versus the former leader of Suzuki-gun, Minoru Suzuki, where it was just chops the entire match, or Kota Ibushi against Suzuki. I guess there's a pattern there, but it was a nice change of pace. It was fresh. I like them still embracing new ideas. That's something you got to give them credit for.
Absolutely. I think they're even, even the House of Torture shit that I hate is still an attempt to do something different. And I think you're like, your mind's in the right place. I just didn't like that particular execution. What do you think of the kind of shoot style match, Joshi J?
The shoot style match, I mean, it's not for everyone, I can tell you that. I mean, I personally find it interesting. It's not certainly not my favorite, but I mean, it has its appeal, I suppose. It's like it's meant to look like MMA. It's meant to resemble it.
Yes.
But I mean, like I said, I know the what was the promotion? The kind of IWF, was that the one?
UWFI. Yeah,
UWFI. Yes, that was the famous shoot style promotion, and the Japan featured Ken Shamrock, even Minoru Suzuki. Suzuki in his early years, he even wrestled for UWFI, and it's a very interesting history to it. It's basically where the NWO, the idea for the NWO came from, was what the UWFI did in New Japan later on. So yeah, I mean, shoot style, it has an appeal. But yeah, I think most people, especially contemporary wrestling fans that are used to the influx of Lucha Libre, making their wrestling that they're, more accustomed to, more high octane of sorts. I think that that crowd isn't going to be too impressed by the shoot style. I think that's different strokes for different folks for sure.
I think that's like a dessert that you have once a year. You know what I mean? It's just like you don't want to have it every day. It's just going to make you sick.
It's very similar to how my feelings are about Josh Barnett's Bloodsport.
Right.
It's great once a year, once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But like you guys said, all the time, no.
So, Justin, no, you don't get to run New Japan now. Fellas, this has been an absolute blast. We could talk about this shit for hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
But I'm trying to keep this one around 90 minutes. So I want to thank you both for taking part in this with me. We're going to talk so many more times about New Japan. So we will have you both back to do that. Antoine, you know you're going to do the previews and predictions for All In with us. I think for now we should bid adieu. And with that in mind, I'm Blade Daly.
I'm Antoine Raphael.
I'm Joshi J.
Pro Wrestling Forever.
Sickos Club.